You are now listening to The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Courtney on the One Podcast Network. Let's get it.
J2BK in the world is the Box Out here on the One Podcast Network. My name is Kahlil Thomas. Joining me in just a few minutes from Brooklyn, New York will be Jason Courtney. Welcome. And let's start with the we're not going to start with NBA Finals because I think there's more important business at hand here, ladies and gentlemen. The Knicks. What the hell is happening? Last week we were on and we talked about Tom Thibodeau getting fired. Did he deserve to get fired? Was it his fault? Whose fault was it? Blah, 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 blah. And, we threw out some names of people that could do the job, who couldn't take over, who can do it, who we would want to take the job. Now, we didn't know where this was going to go. We didn't know where the Knicks were going to go, who they're going to talk to first, and who's going to come in for an interview, and blah, 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 blah. We didn't know that. In the last week, I'm assuming this is part of the plan. I'm giving Leon Rose a little bit of credit here. But in the last week, they've asked the Dallas Mavericks to talk to Jason Kidd. Dallas said no. They've asked the Minnesota Timberwolves to talk to Chris Finch. They said no. They asked the Atlanta Hawks to talk to Quinn Snyder. They said no. They talked to Houston Rockets about letting them talk to Ime Udoka. They said no. So essentially the plan of the New York Knicks was, let's fire Tibbs and let's just hope that any team, and it could be let's pick some of the good teams in the NBA, the better teams. And let's just ask them, hey, guys, we know you went to the playoffs this year. We know you went to the play-in. We know some momentum. Can we talk to your coach about him coming to coach us and to coach our guys? Chris Finch, one of the most sought-after assistants for years, who got Minnesota, who I did not think anything about last year, got them to the Western Conference Finals. Hey, can we talk to Chris Finch? Jason Kidd, who got the Mavericks to the NBA Finals last year, kept the team together after the Luka Doncic trade and the injury to Kyrie and Anthony Davis being out, kept that team together, got to the play-in, didn't go any further, but got into the play-in. Hey, can we talk to him? Quinn Snyder, who, you almost forget about him down in the ATL. He's keeping that team together, considering that Trae Young is just seems like a chore of a person, just a chore of a man, but he's keeping it together. Hey, can we talk to Quinn? Ime, hey, Houston. Ime took a young team that was undisciplined, brought them to the playoffs, got them a 3 or 4 seed in the Western Conference, in a tough Western Conference. Hey, can we talk to Ime? Is that cool? If this has been the plan this whole time, this Leon Rose is a moron, complete and utter moron. If the plan was, let's siphon a coach from a good team in the NBA, a team that make the playoffs, hey, let's talk to their coach. Maybe they'll say yes. We know we have assets. We know the Knicks have draft picks. They have some players they could probably move. I'm not sure if Karl Anthony Towns is movable with that contract, but they have some assets. But the sheer arrogance of Leon Rose and the New York Knicks organization to think that they can go and just ask a team, hey, can we tell your coach that took you to the playoffs to a 3 seed? Can we talk to him? Is that cool? Can we negotiate with him and steal him, essentially? This whole thing has been foobarred from the start. Last week, I was I was kind of hedging my thoughts on Tibbs, on the firing, and how I kind of agree with it. I kind of didn't agree with it. But I was definitely hedging my bets on the trade. I didn't give a yes or a no. You should have got fired. I did have my issues with Tibbs over the years. If you heard our show on audio back in the day, if you saw us here on YouTube, thanks for watching, whether it's live or recorded. What's up? You know that my biggest issue with Tom Thibodeau has been his player minutes and how he is afraid to play his bench and will play his starters into the ground and play them into the ground. That was an issue. That's been my issue with him for years. But look at what he did with New York. Look at what he did with the Knicks. And look at where the Knicks were when he got there and look at where they are now without him now at the helm. I think we have to look at that and go, yeah, that means something. But the fact that they just assume that they can just go and hope and pray that they can get a coach and hope and pray that a team goes, okay, come on, what are we doing? So the rumors that Taylor Jenkins, former Memphis coach, and Mike Brown is a focus now of the New York Knicks, which is very interesting as I bring in Jason Kortner from BK. What's going on, Jay?
Not much, man. This coaching search has definitely become – I have theories about it.
All right, so let's start. I started our opening tip. I said it was just sheer arrogance to think that they can just ask these good teams, hey, can we borrow that? Can we get that? And it's up to your coach. It just seemed like a real arrogant move that Leon Rose just felt like he could do. But what are your conspiracy theories on this search?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Leon Rose. My conspiracy theory is that, you know, we kind of all dreaded this day when the Spear in Vegas is done, and there's already been open for a while. Now the attention is back on the Knicks and the Rangers. He hasn't really hampered with the Rangers too much, but now he's looking at Tibbs. I think this is all Dolan. And I think this is Leon Rose. You know, you have that mad owner. This kind of reminds me of the Jetsons. Where you have that shitty boss, but you're trying to appease that boss by doing things that you know no rightful boss or any organization will allow to happen. So I think Rose has been tampering with these, not tampering, but he's been inquiring about these coaches and their availability only to appease Dolan, but no, deep down, he wants to hire, what's the name? Johnny, I forgot his last name. Johnny
Bryant.
Johnny Bryant. I think I think Rose want to hire him, but Dolan wants a bigger name. So Rose is appeasing to Dolan, like, hey, I did my part. I tried to get you these guys. None of them were available. Maybe you need to circle back and hire the guy I want to hire. That's my tinfoil theory.
That Leon's just like, all right, let's just ask these teams, talk to the coaches just to keep Jimmy
Dolan
happy.
Yep.
And show him, like, hey, they're saying no. Can we go to my guy?
That's what I think is happening right here.
Honestly, that's not a far-fetched theory, because the idea that they keep asking all these teams permission to talk to their coach and they're saying no, that I think that makes sense, where that's the only explanation, because I can't think that they just came into this search like, hey, let's just call these teams up and let's go after some big fish and see what happens. There's no way you fire a set coach who beyond what I've heard, most of the players like Tibbs. I think you have like the Mikal Bridges and probably the Cats. I'm going to say Cat, who probably didn't like his coaching style, but for the most part, the team likes him. You're not going to give him up for this uncertainty of just like, let's just ask and see what happens.
Not even that too, but like, I'm pretty sure you would have to compensate said team if you take their coach. So now you're going to deplete your assets, you don't have much of a war chest asset, but now you're depleting your whatever asset you have to try to get someone down the line. So I just think this is Rose like, all right, I'm going to do what you say. I know I'm smarter than you, but I'm going to let you think you're smarter than me, and I'm going to approach these teams. And unless, the only caveat to all of this, unless they might be trying to go to Mark Jackson, Sam Cassell, first year head coach kind of route, which I doubt. I would prefer that than going after Mike Brown.
Yeah, my thing is, I had an argument with my dad about this today, and he's like, Mike Brown. Like, I don't want the Knicks have a tendency of just getting retreads.
Yeah,
Right? We could talk about Tibbs, talk about Larry Brown. We could talk about Mike Woodson. We could talk about Don Chaney. We could talk about Isaiah wasn't really a retread, but he was kind of around.
Larry Brown at the end.
Yeah, Larry Brown at the end. And then we had Jeff Hornacek, which was a disaster, and Derek Fisher, which was a disaster. So we've kind of done both. We kind of did the no rule experience, i.e. Derek Fisher, and we had the grizzled vet in Larry Brown, and both just didn't work. Like both ways didn't work. I think recently we went away from those first year guys and went more to the grizzled vets, and that's not working. Why not go find that in between? I say Taylor Jenkins, 40-year-old coach. You want a young coach who has experience and knows what he's doing. Mike Brown, I feel like in the Sacramento, so you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. To rub Sacramento the wrong way and have them fire you mid-season, even though that's a fucked up organization to begin with,
right?
Says a lot. After winning Coach of the Year, taking to the playoffs, all that stuff, and then you get fired midway through the next year. That scares me. Plus, I want offense. Mike Brown's a defensive coach. I need a coach that comes in and coaches offense. Our offense is stagnant as shit. We need someone to come in and go, hey, we're going to run up and down, motion. We go half court, we're moving. Everybody's moving. No one's sitting around watching Jalen with the ball. Everyone's going to move. I think that's what we need right now, not the defensive coach.
I agree, too. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're keeping Brunson on the coaching staff, I'm pretty sure he will act as the defensive coordinator for said staff that you hire.
Well, there's a report, and it's the Post, so you have to take the New York Post with a grain of salt here, that you might have an issue because Rick Brunson is not well liked around the league. So to bring in a new coach, and you almost have to include Rick Brunson because his son plays, his son's the star of the team. You have to keep Rick Brunson around, and some coaches may not want Rick Brunson around. So that might become an issue down the line of a coach coming in with his own people, but having to keep Rick Brunson on the sidelines.
Damn, I was just in my head. I was just thinking, like, this is a good time. If Dante DiVincenzo had a podcast, I would love to hear his opinion about all of this.
Oh, he'll put up a podcast next week. That's just a thing. He'll have a podcast in the woods with Dante or some shit like that because he's in Minnesota. This whole thing is just irking the shit out of me at this point. I'm just getting aggravated. Moving on to the NBA Finals. Another thing I'm aggravated at. The Pacers up 2-1, and last night's game. Was last night's game Indiana winning it or OKC losing it? Because I feel like it's the latter.
I think it's OKC losing it and not. I feel like Indiana took them to shallow waters that they are not accustomed to being in, so that I felt like they were kind of tired towards the end. And I don't think the series is over. However, I do think Game 4 is probably the most pivotal game of the series because I think the winner of that game probably has an inside track of winning the series. So I think what sucks, though, is that it's tomorrow and not the day after because I think the rest of the games after Game 4 is 2 days apart. But I think this is where coaching matters. I want to see what Oklahoma City does in terms of, like, adjustments. Do you put Caruso in the starting lineup? Do you kind of, like, scale back the minutes early on for Gildas? Or do you kind of, like – I'm curious to see what kind of tweaking you do. But I think Hardenstein had a bad game. I think the offense got stagnant towards the end. They didn't really know what to do in crunch time. It was a close game, so I don't think it's that much adjustment they need to make. But they better be careful. They lose Game 4. I think they're in a world of trouble.
The man that bane of my existence, my dad. Indiana won it. That's not fake news.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have Chet who played really well. Had 13 points in the first quarter, and then had 7 the rest of the way. And shot.
Yeah,
first of all, he shot 6 to 15 from the field, over 6 from 3. Which, hey, stop shooting threes, Chet. But I think you have to figure out maybe you put Caruso, you start Caruso, you have Casey Wallace come off the bench. I think you need that defense early on. And you got to figure out the minutes because, SGA played 42 minutes and he looked exhausted. He looked winded by the end of that game. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you might have to scale it back a little bit early on and save him for that stretch run. So I think this is a matter of OKC losing it more. And like I said, getting confused, getting kind of thrown off, not really knowing what to do when they kind of turn that defensive pressure on. And then they played half court, and OKC, good team, used to that. Not used to half court, not used to slowing it down completely. So I think Indiana did their job. I think OKC is just not a half court team. And when they get in that half court and that shot clock is running and they kind of got to find that shot, I go back to the first quarter. Last shot of first quarter, SGA got triple team, still put a shot up. He had somebody wide open next to him. Yep. Like in a situation like that, I think Indiana does that really well. You got to run it. On the other end, Indiana runs. And I think when Indiana started running up and down that floor midway through the second quarter through the end of the game, OKC had no answers.
All I kept thinking about after game 2 was game 3 yesterday was, damn, we really gave up Obi for nothing.
Yeah. And listen, he didn't do anything crazy, but just we always talk about Obi Toppin how it's the energy. It's not like his game. His game still isn't polished, but it's the energy
but he gives
Obi
you that
Toppin
energy.
Gives you, and that's something honestly wouldn't mind having that against Indiana in the last 2 years. Having that guy off the bench to come in and give you 20 tough, energetic minutes. We didn't really have that off the bench, so. Tibbs wanted him to be a small forward. He ain't a small forward. He's a tweener. So he can hit a 3 occasionally. He get a 3 occasionally. And then just run the floor. I saw the Knicks banner up. I forgot what I'm talking about the Pacers. I'm looking like, oh, that's the Knicks. Game 4. Who's this game more important for? Is it important for Indiana go up 3-1, or is it like imperative that OKC the pressure's on them now?
This is one of those games where I think it's on both teams. Whereas I think Indiana's path to a championship is they have to win all their home games. I don't think they're winning another game in Oklahoma. Now, for the same could be said about the Thunder. The Thunder's path to the championship is they have to get one in Indiana. So I'm going Thunder in game 4 only because I think they make the right adjustments and they're a deeper team, and I think they figure a way to get over the hump. But if Indiana comes out pretty much the same pace they did in game 3, this could be another track meet, and that favors the Pacers.
And when we talk about going into the series, how Halliburton, if he doesn't have a good game, have like 30, 40 points, you need other people to step up. And listen, Halliburton's going to get his points. Halliburton's going to do his thing, but when you let Benedict Mathurin score 27 on you, right? Yeah. When you let Pascal Siakam do his thing, which he's going to get 20 points, but
very quiet 20 points.
Yeah, but impactful at those moments. I know ESPN was ESPN was filleting him this morning about Pascal Siakam's great, but it was a quiet 21. But Mathurin off the bench is what really killed him. He had 27 points in 22 minutes. So you can't let those ancillary pieces besides Siakam, who's going to score his 20 quiet points, and then Halliburton's going to score his 25, 30 points. You can't let those other pieces kill you. In OKC, you have so many other pieces that can kind of kick in. Last night, that just wasn't working. First of all, they lived and died by the 3, which you talk about how that's just something you don't want to do. And 17 turnovers just ain't getting the job done. So I feel like you have to shut down those other pieces. Let Halliburton do him. Halliburton's going to do his thing, and he's going to have a game where he's going to shoot like 5 for 55. It's going to happen. But shut everybody else down, and OKC wins this game tomorrow.
Random question. It's still kind of on topic of the finals. If Rick Carlisle wins the championship in Indiana, does he surpass Spoelstra as the number 1 coach in the league? Or has he already done that?
Good question.
Remember, Pop's gone. So that number one spot's up for grabs.
Honestly, I think that's a damn good question. Wow. I think yes. I mean, what has Miami done in the last?
They
Since
have
bubble.
made the finals.
Since the bubble.
They
Since
made the
bubble.
finals once.
Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Made the finals once. Since they made the finals, what have they done?
When survive the play-in. They're survivors of the play-in.
They go to play-in and they surpass expectations. I think if Carlisle wins this, he's the best coach in the league. There's no question about it. I don't think anyone else comes close right now. You could make an argument about Jason Kidd if they get their shit together again, because I think Jason Kidd, and if they kind of you get Cooper Flagg,
a disciple of Carlisle, by the way, a disciple from Carlisle.
Yeah,
he did learn some stuff in Dallas.
You look around the league. It's not that like, oh my god, that guy. There isn't. So I think you're right. I think Carlisle surpasses Spoelstra if he wins. I think Carlisle might surpass him even if he doesn't win a championship.
I'm leaning towards that too, because I'm taking into factor his first Detroit run, his first Indiana run, his Dallas run, and now back to Indiana. I think he might have surpassed Spoelstra.
Yeah, because Miami has not done anything lately. It's just like heat culture. Okay, you guys don't win. Is the culture mediocrity? Is the culture just getting in barely? Just like, hey, let's get that play in. Because Miami plays for play in. They don't want the 1 through 6. They're like, let's get that play in. We like that. So I don't see it. I don't think Spoelstra is as good as everyone thought he was. And that's saying a lot. I don't think Spoelstra was this guy that like, oh my God, it's Pat Riley's squad. Is he a good coach? Yes, I think Spoelstra's a good coach. Is he like upper echelon in the league? Hell no. Not now. I don't think he's ever been. I'm waiting for some heat hate at some point. Some heat hate on this YouTube channel at some point. So I want to go WNBA. We'll come back to the NBA in a second. The Liberty still undefeated. The only undefeated team left in the WNBA at 9-0. They play.
Minnesota lost?
Minnesota lost last night.
Oh, wow.
They out.
I did not know that.
They out. 9-0. Are the Liberty just better than everyone else? Is this what's happening right now?
I want to say if Caitlin Clark is playing on Saturday, that's going to be a real gut check. That's going to be another test for them. But right now, I think they are playing better than everyone, and I think everyone's meshing quickly. Like, it wasn't like last season or season before where it took a while for them to get their legs under them. Everyone's playing, everyone knows their role, and it's a beautiful thing to watch.
So they have Indiana on Saturday, and then they have the Dream, and then the Phoenix Mercury, who's trying to kind of figure out and have their new generation without Diana Taurasi. So there's a good possibility the Liberty could be 12-0 next Thursday night when we do our show again. I'm shocked at how fast this has happened. Because when they got Natasha Cloud, I was like, okay, that's kind of late. The training camp is starting, and I'm like, all right, it's just going to mesh. It seemed like it just worked really fast because you already had Stewie, you already had Aniscu. You put Benages out, but you also have Cloud, which I was like, wow, that could be good, but I'll give him to like All-Star break before he started clicking.
No.
It's insane how fast it's kind of picked up and how I have to bring up the schedule again because I think the schedule has nothing to do with it because they've had a schedule.
They have.
So if we don't mention the schedule, I feel like we're not being
objective.
We're not being objective. We are objective sports writers. We got journalists. We got a Pablo Torre of the Tri-State area. Okay, we got to keep it objective, but the numbers don't lie. They're blowing teams out. They're blowing the teams they need to beat. Right? They're not blowing games to the Valkyrie. Valkyrie won 2 in a row, which is like, oh shit, that happened.
Hey, yep.
So I think, is this a matter of they're beating who's in front of them, or as he said, they might need to lose. I said in the chat, they need to lose to bring them back to earth, and they have to be humbled a little bit and not get this inflated head at 15, 16, 17-0.
I mean, rarely do you say a defending champion needs to get humbled, but if anything, to be honest with you, I want them to dominate until they probably see Minnesota. And if that's their first L, I'm cool with that because then that humbles them and gets them refocused because they knew Minnesota feels that they stole that championship from them. So I think that's probably where they're. To me, that's where they're. I think they're locked on Minnesota and maybe still a little bit. I'll say the Aces a little bit, but not too much. More so Minnesota. But if they lose to one of those two teams, I'm cool with that. But everyone else, they're so head and shoulder better. Like their starting 5, even off the bench, is better than most of the others in the league. But again, Indiana might be a test on Sunday. I'm sorry, I'm not going to discount that game.
So right now you have possibly 3 WNBA MVP candidates on this team. You have Stewie, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists a game. You have Sabrina Ionescu, 17 points, 5 assists a game, and then Jocko Jones, 13 points, 10 rebounds a game. And she's been the biggest shock for me since she came to New York. So I'm like, yeah, her game is really good. But we just had Gina Charles, and we just had the name is eluding me. There was another center that we had before that. It was a similar game, and they really didn't fit with Sabrina. And I ran the sloop when we had her. And Jocko Jones really works with this team because I think she stretches the floor really well, which in NBA, WNBA, that's the game now. She can hit that jumper from the outside and draw that in and space that floor out. So I think Jocko Jones is that kind of that underdog, kind of undercover X factor every single game because what she can do.
This is why she won Finals MVP because she pretty much does her job so well. It takes the pressure off, everyone else. So it works out. But I still think getting Cloud is what put them over the hump this year, and it's already paying dividends.
I'm a little sketchy about the minutes. I'm a minutes guy. 29 minutes a game for Sabrina. You have 28 minutes for Stewie. They have some blowouts. Coach, let's bring it down a little bit. Scale it back a little bit. Scale it back a little bit. Let's not kill it. We talk about the schedule. I want to bring it up real quick just to see where they're at if this loads because WNBA website is kind of okay. Here we go. Like I said, Fever, Dream, Mercury. They go at Seattle, at Golden State, at Phoenix, at Atlanta, in a 4-game road trip. Valkyrie win. I think Mercury win. Atlanta scares me, and I'm not sure why. There's something about Atlanta and their style of play, and they play kind of like the Aces a little bit, kind of rugged. Kind of just bang you up and down and just beat you up the whole game. And I think the Liberty, they've shown that they can't really handle teams like that. So that's the one team that really scares me. Besides the Aces, still to this day, and the Lynx are the same exact thing.
Same thing. Yep.
We talked about Minnesota. They play Minnesota on, and I want to get there, July 30th in Minnesota. So we're talking a month away. Can the Liberty run the table with the game against the Aces in the middle of that?
I think they can. I think the Aces might get them.
You think so?
And at this point, I think the Aces might get them, and there's a good chance. I don't know if Minnesota loses again. So I think we might be still looking at a battle of one-loss teams. 2 at the max. I don't think the Liberty will be the team with 2 losses, though.
It's an interesting game. I want to talk about the Dallas Wings. Paige Becker's down there. Gumawali's down there. 1-10. Is this just growing pains, or is Bruce correct that the team they have together with Erika and Paige does not work?
I want to say it's growing pains. I still want to say it's growing pains.
You're real. You're like, it's cool. It's cool.
It's cool. It's a good time. It took Sabrina a while to get used to her teammates, so we'll give it time. Let it cook a little bit.
In her defense, she didn't have obviously the wobble she didn't play in. That first full year, that team wasn't that great.
It wasn't good.
It was not good at all. So,
but did they make the playoffs that year? Did they make the playoffs that year?
No,
it was the next year. Sorry,
it was next year. But yeah, that first full year Sabrina had, the Liberty were not good, like at all. I think Michaela Anuea was the only good player to have that team besides Sabrina, and that was it. That's all they
Which
had.
Which is why they got the first. This is why they got the first pick and got Sabrina.
Stephanie Dolson was it for them. That was like their other superstar, Stephanie Dolson, who gives you 5 points and 2 rebounds and character, but that was it. It was Sabrina Ionescu and Steph Dolson. That was all you had in the team back then, that second year, Sabrina. Connecticut 2-7. They continue to get blown out every game. And they're up for sale, which is very interesting now because you have a bad team that just clean house, and now you have the tribe that owns them saying, let's see how much we can get for it. Does Connecticut survive and stay in Connecticut? Because I really do think that expansion has been the conversation in the league, but relocation has happened in this league a lot. Could this be a possibility for the Connecticut Sun?
I think so, and I think where they might relocate. It depends who buys them, and if someone was to invest in the Connecticut Suns, I think they're definitely going to move them out of Connecticut because they're too close to. We always said it too. They're too close to New York. I would move them. I would move them to Boston. Boston kind of wants a team anyway, and which will look like a logjam if you had a Boston team, a Connecticut team, and a New York team. So I think the feasible thing to do is move them out of Connecticut and probably take them to Boston. But I also think about the Hartford Whalers and how they were like people were really pissed when they left Hartford for Carolina, and we see the success they have in Carolina after they left. So it's a tricky thing. But if the new ownership comes in, I would move them to Boston because you would still get that Connecticut fan base to drive up an hour and a half to Boston.
Well, they played a game in Boston last year in the regular season, so they tried that out and played at TD. Was it? Yeah, TD Arena, TD Garden, whatever the hell. They played a game there. So. And I think they got like 15,000 for that game in Boston. So I don't know if it was an experiment. I don't know if that was one of those things like can we get. And now that the Celtics have a new owner, so maybe that new owner wants to delve into WNBA like Golden State and their ownership.
Yeah,
it could be interesting. I think Connecticut was really good because you had UConn, and UConn is like the mecca for women's basketball. I don't care what anyone says. It's not Tennessee. It's Connecticut. But I also feel like that diamond kind of like that shines off a little bit because UConn, they won the national championship this year, but they were bad for a while. Not bad. I don't take that back. Not bad, but they weren't winning national championships for a long time.
They weren't winning, right?
So I think the idea of women's basketball being in Connecticut and the Sun coming in, that worked out perfectly. But now you had UConn not that good, and I don't think anybody wants to go watch basketball in a casino. I think that's another thing.
But that's another thing too. Like if you move them to Boston, keep the name, it's kind of like, I'm not saying it's like the Warriors leaving Oakland for San Francisco, but it could be, you could still build it and sell it that way in terms of like, hey, we're only leaving Connecticut because we need our own arena, or we need a bigger space. Come see us in Boston. You'll still make that drive. If you're gonna make that drive to Mohegan Sun, you're probably gonna make the drive to Boston.
Yeah, and I mean the Celtics. I think Celtics training is in Boston. It's on
the. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you could piggyback with them or build your own on Mass Pike or do what you need to do. But I feel like they don't have. You look at Phoenix and how much money they've invested into their facilities, Vegas, the Liberty, and investing into the Barclays and building their own locker rooms and giving them what they need. And the Valkyries having theirs. And they talk about Toronto is going to go top notch with the tempo.
Yeah.
I don't think Connecticut's been thinking about that. I think Connecticut's behind everybody else, and they've been in the league for a long time. So I feel like you need an owner that's going to go and say, I'm going to invest in this league, in this team, and in these players. And Connecticut hasn't had that since they've come into the league, really.
And I think this is where I think that Boston ownership that has bought the Celtics are going to probably look in and they're probably going to see what's going on around the league, and it's a win-win.
So speaking of teams with some money behind them, Golden State Valkyries 4-5 through 9 games. Is one of the best starts for a expansion team in the league. I don't know how they've won 4 games. I'm not sure. They don't have a great team. Like, I'm just going to put it out there.
They did not look good the 2 games I saw them against the Liberty.
but something's working now. Something's clicking. Is it just grit? Is it just like, hey, we know we're gonna be bad, so let's just do the best we can?
It could be because hey, listen, there's effort and grit will win you some games, and clearly it's one of them a few, one of them four. So hey, let's write it out and see what happens. Very low expectations for an expansion team, so they're definitely exceeding that.
Shout out to Kayla Thornton, former Liberty. She was picked in the expansion draft, averaging 13 points a game, leading the way for Golden State. So, listen, you have Golden State, you got Portland, you got the Toronto Tempo next year. I'm curious. I'm also curious about who's going to be the next team, because there's going to be another team announced. I know we have our heart set on the Houston Comets making a comeback.
They need to bring them back.
Houston Comets, Sacramento Monarchs. I'm about that life. We can bring back the Cleveland Rockers. We could try that again.
We don't need the Detroit Shock. We don't need that.
No, they got a title. Bill Laimbeer was the coach. They got a title. So we got to be, there's some history there in Detroit. Not at the Little Caesars Arena, preferably, because that arena just does not look like a good basketball place. The other big story, and we got to talk about this because the Knicks might be involved in this. Apparently, according to sources and Shams, Kevin Durant and his people are evaluating possible trades away from Phoenix. I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know. Before you have the conversation about possible destinations, how much gas does KD have left in the tank right now to be KD? To be KD.
He would be a great third option on it. He would be honestly, my honest assessment of KD right now in his career, he needs to be the Mikal Bridges of a championship worthy team. He's not the first option. He's not the second option, but he's that third option. But that could be a possible closer in the fourth quarter. I don't expect much. I expect not to give you take 20 shots a game, but I expect him to give you an efficient 10 shots, 5 rebounds, a possible block or two this stage of his career. But I definitely think he's not a number one or number two option for a championship level team going forward. I think those days are past him. I think those days are left in Brooklyn.
So according to sources, Phoenix Suns and Rich Kleiman has met multiple times over the past week and are sifting through trade scenarios. Two sides are expected to work together on potential destinations. Teams that have expressed interest in Durant mainly feature Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, Miami Heat, Minnesota Timberwolves, and New York Knicks. Several wild card suitors have made inquiries on Durant in the past 7 to 10 days. $54.7 million for this upcoming season. Once he's traded, he's eligible for a 2-year extension, up to $222 million. Let's start right now. Can the Knicks get Kevin Durant?
Who are you giving up? That's the problem. Who are you giving up? I would only be willing to give up either Bridges or a package of. No, it's just Bridges. I wouldn't want to give up Towns for him at this stage of career. I wouldn't. I think Towns has a little bit more gas in the tank, and I would not give up Robinson. And I don't know if you give up that 1 first round pick, but also at the same time, I think Phoenix wants draft capital because they have none going forward. So I think if anything, I'm so confused about this because are you gonna, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm confused about this, because I think it's Booker has more value out there. So Booker will fetch you 5 to 6 first round picks from a contender, whereas is everyone thinking how I'm thinking about Durant, where he's not much less, he doesn't have much left in the gas tank, where he's a third option at best. So so like in that case, you give up 1 draft pick and a rotation player for him. That's why I'm confused about this.
So Knicks can't give up too much in order to stay relevant. I agree with that. I feel like when we talk about the money, because obviously we talk about salaries and how it matches up,
Salary
like
too,
that. Yeah. Durant and Cat, the salaries match up. That's what it is. So it would have to be Cat. It have to be for Cat for Durant. That's straight up, whatever. ESPN did some trade scenarios. Andre Snellings did his, and I'll tell you what his hypothetical Knicks trades for Phoenix. And it's quite simple. Knicks get Kevin Durant, the Suns get OG, and Mitchell Robinson. How do you feel about that one?
And you still keep Cat?
So keep Cat. So you have Durant, Brunson, Cat.
At this stage of his career.
There'll be no defense played on his team at any point in the season.
But they will be an offensive juggernaut. That's the catch. No, I wouldn't do that trade. I wouldn't do that trade. I wouldn't do that trade. I don't trust KD. Listen, KD had his opportunity to be here. He chose Brooklyn. I think we need to let that ship sail.
All right. So here are a couple of hypothetical trade offers from ESPN. To the Rockets, Kevin Durant for Dylan Brooks, Reed Shepherd, Cam Whitmore, Jacques Landale, the number 10 pick in 2025, and a first-round pick in 2027, which is Phoenix's pick. They get it back. How does that sound to you?
Here's the thing. Here's another problem with that. I would do that if I was Houston, but now I feel like going to Houston, he's your primary option, which I don't think he should be your primary option this stage of his career. Especially where you're not surrounding him with other shooters. Unlike Golden State, where Steph is still the number one option, you still got Jimmy Butler. You still got, you know what I mean? So I don't know if that's smart on Houston part.
Okay. Here's a hypothetical Miami trade. And this is a three-team trade in this one. Miami gets Kevin Durant. The Suns get Nikola Jovic, Andrew Wiggins, a 2025 first-round pick, a 2030 first-round pick, and a 2026 second-round pick. Here's the third team. The Nets get Duncan Robinson, Keyshawn Johnson, 2029 first-round pick swap, a 2031 pick swap, and a 2031 second-round pick. How does this three-team trade sound to you?
I mean, I like it for the Nets because I still think the Nets have a better opportunity to get Giannis if he decides he wants to leave. So I kind of like that for the Nets.
Okay,
I do like that trade. I like that trade for everybody. I do.
All right, hypothetical trade for Minnesota. Wolves get Durant. Suns get Rudy Gobert, Dante DiVincenzo, and Rob Dillingham.
I don't like it because now you're a playing team for the Suns. I mean, you make the playoffs now, but you'll be a playing team at best.
Okay. San Antonio. They get Kevin Durant. Suns get Devin Vassell, Harrison Barnes, and a 2025 first-round pick.
I like it for San Antonio. I don't like it for the Suns.
All right. Mavericks, they get Kevin Durant. The Suns get Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, Derek Lively, and a 2028 first-round pick.
Are we sure we want to put Durant and Kyrie on the same team again?
No. That I feel like if anyone thinks about that and goes, wait a second. No. Oh, shit. No, we can't do that. No, never mind. And you hang up on the phone. Just hang up right away and go, we're good. We're good. We forgot about that. My bad. I think apparently, according to this article, Minnesota would be picked. Minnesota, according to the insiders, the Minnesota trade would be the one that Phoenix would pick up on, which means Minnesota would be Ant and Durant, and you still have Naz Reid. So I guess you have Naz Reid, Durant, and Anthony Edwards. That's not a terrible three guy team right there.
No, it's just that who's getting the ball? There's only one ball.
Ant better get the damn ball. The Durant call for him, like.
How about this? If the Pacers win this series, do OKC unload a couple of those picks to go get Durant, bring him back home?
My issue would be how would he play with SGA? What could that work? Because I'm not sure that could.
Mm.
I feel like if OKC loses this series, I feel like you need a player that complements SGA really well, and I'm not sure Durant's that guy. I'm not sure who that person is.
Who? You know who OKC? They need Randall.
Said no one ever in NBA history. No, this team's missing Julius Randle. That's the guy. That's the glue. We need that glue. Julius Randle's that guy.
That's what it. That's what they've been. They're missing a guy like that. Or Bam.
You know, they're missing Steven Adams. They need Steven Adams down there just to start throwing elbows. You don't have that one. You don't have a tough guy. You need a tough guy to go up against Miles Turner because Miles Turner is shitting all over Isaiah Hartenstein this series.
Yeah, I did not see that happening.
Because he's just.
Then again, it did happen last year too in the playoffs.
It did, and he did not learn his lesson. And apparently, OKC's coach did not watch any video for the series last year and pick up what the hell happened with Isaiah Hartenstein and Miles Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Our last topic tonight: NCAA. A judge finally approved the deal. The deal has been, God, I've been writing about this for like 15 years. The NCAA, the settlement, teams can officially pay players now. There's going to be a pot of $20 million. Obviously, 70% of it goes to football, then basketball, then women's basketball, and then everyone else gets like the crumbs. How big is this? Not just for the major conferences, the Power Fours, but how big is this for the small schools who can't afford this at all?
It's huge. It's definitely gonna, the richer, it's gonna get richer, and now it's good to see the student athletes gonna be able to get paid. But now I feel like you're gonna really see the top of the blue bloods it's back to the blue bloods take it over again because Duke's gonna get the best, Carolina's gonna get the best. When it comes to football, it's gonna be a battle between the SEC and the Big Ten. So it's gonna be a bloodbath in terms of where players go. I think now you got to hammer out the transfer portal. I think that's the next thing you got to figure out. Like, hey, if you stick around here, you got to commit a year or two, maybe two. But that's what they got to hammer out going forward. But it's good to see that the student athletes are going to get paid, and I feel better for the guys that who would probably be a late round, like in basketball, will be like a projected second round pick, like a Bronny James. If he wasn't LeBron, so we all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But now that guy who didn't get drafted will be compensated for his time in NCAA.
So the NCAA will pay nearly $2.8 billion in back damages over the next 10 years to athletes who competed in college at any time from 2016 through the present day. Each school can pay its athletes up to a certain limit. The annual cap is expected to start at roughly $20.5 million per school and increase every year during the decade-long deal. These new payments are in addition to scholarships and other benefits the athletes already receive, which is not including NIL money. Mm-hmm. My issue is if you're getting paid millions of dollars, should the scholarship be taken? Because obviously you can afford to pay for your own, you can pay your way, right? Scholarships are not important because you're paying your own way. And essentially, you're being paid to play. So why should the school invest in you when they're already paying you cash to come play anyway? Does that make sense?
Right. It does make sense. But now it feels like the power is definitely not in the coach's hands anymore. I think it's all in the players now going forward.
Which I'm happy for. I think it's time. I think we hit that. I think we hit that Pandora's box of the players went and said, "Listen, I remember a UConn player who couldn't eat. I think they went. They didn't win the championship that year, and he literally said, "Shabazz Napier, like I'm hungry, like I'm starving, like I have no food." And then you have these coaches who are making money on the contracts and making money on the sneaker companies are paying the coaches on top of giving Nikes and Reeboks and Adidas, whatever. They have coaches shows that are sponsored by Bojangles. They get money from Bojangles, and so all this money's coming into the coaches, but then the players were just getting scholarship and a little per diem money. The paradigm has shifted, and it needed to at some point. It's up to the coach to adjust, and I think the coaches that want to adjust are going to adjust. The coaches that did not want to adjust are now talking to President Trump, trying to get him to hop in and try to get legislation on the books about it, and it's like too late. You've had the power; it's gone now.
It's funny you mention that because I believe in the new NCAA football game coming out. Now the real life coach counterparts are going to be in the game. How convenient is that?
Not only that, but they added EA did something cool where depending on how much that a certain team is played with, that school gets money. So if you want to go rock with Kennesaw State, the more you play with Kennesaw State, they get like some money in the back end, not a ton, like $50,000, but they get some money in the back end. Which for me, I play dynasty mode. I want to pick small schools and rock with them heavy, not go to Penn State, not go to Syracuse. I'm just gonna be like, I'm gonna be a head coach at Akron. Fuck it. I'll be head coach. I'll be the head coach of Georgia State. That's what I'm gonna do because I want them to get paid too, and not just be Penn. I love Penn State, but they don't need me playing with them in the game. But you know who does need me to play with them? Toledo. Toledo needs help. So that's
I'm
cool.
I'm still stuck in the Big Ten. I'm still stuck in the Big Ten game with Rutgers.
Oh, Rutgers? He's still Rutgers. Yeah. You haven't left yet. You haven't got a new job yet.
I was only offered a job in North Carolina, ironically.
Listen, in the I think 11 seasons I played as a coach, I had 4 jobs. I just jumped from school to school. I'm like, all right, hey, I'll be at the OC at Kennesaw, and then I was the head coach in Pitt, and then I was the head coach at Penn State, and then I was the head coach at Notre Dame. And I just kept jumping around. I'm like, screw it. I'll be Larry Brown and just go job to job at this point.
I get
second Larry Brown reference tonight. I didn't think we would ever mention his name, but twice tonight. It's crazy. I have an interview with Monmouth's AD next week. So I'm talking to all the ADs of the smaller schools in New Jersey, like the small one schools. So Monmouth, St. Peter's, who made it to the Elite Eight a couple years ago, got a windfall, redid their gym. Fairleigh Dickinson, who upset Purdue 2 years ago at the NCAA tournament. Ryder, which is down in Lawrenceville in South Jersey. So the smaller D1 schools, I'm talking to them for a story and kind of going to ask them how it's going to affect them going forward because it's harder for them to recruit as is. And on top of this, even the smaller schools, might be like, hey, we got an extra $2 million from a booster when it come play for us. So it'll be interesting to see how these small schools kind of adjust to this new system and this new universe that we're going in.
Yeah, I feel like it's especially for like Rutgers and Seton Hall. Now they're going to be watching their players get poached from smaller schools inside the state. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward.
And it's weird because you have a team like Rutgers in the Big Ten. Rutgers, and I was talking to a Rutgers alum on Memorial Day, and he made a point. Rutgers don't have that big time booster base like a Texas has, like Alabama has, like those schools. You don't have a lot of Rutgers grads making like $2 billion. Who's just going to put money in? They're depending on small dollar donors from alumni. So. And I think Seton Hall has the same problem. I think St. John's kind of has the same problem. I think the local schools in our area, they don't have those multi-billion-dollar guys from their school who are just fanatics like Phil Knight in Oregon, who's just giving all his money away to Oregon.
Yeah, you would probably say Syracuse is probably the biggest one in our area.
Yeah, and Syracuse has the Newhouse schools, and they have all the announcers. So Bob Costas is like, I'll give you $2 million. All the big time announcers went to Syracuse. So I'm interested to see. I'll let you guys know when the story is done because I'm still writing it and I got to have these interviews. But I'm curious to see what they said because these small schools at NEC, in the CAA, the MAC, these schools are going to be really affected, and their alumni is going to kind of bring some money to the table and really help them out because they're going to need the help down the line.
And I completely just remembered. That isn't Curry the over at Dayton?
Yeah, he's the GM.
The GM. So now
the GM of Davidson, yeah.
So now they're going to be making a lot of noise in the Carolina. Now they're going to be part of that conversation with everyone else in the Carolina.
Listen, and Curry has the hookups with the golfers and NBA, and like so. Davis is going to bring some money in. Davidson's still Davidson, but they play in the A10. The Atlantic 10 might get some of that money too. So I'm curious to see how this kind of works out for these smaller conferences. Not so much for the Big Ten and the SEC because who gives a shit about them?
Pretty much.
They got money coming out the ass right now. ACC, but still bitching and moaning about how much money they all get, and it's like you're each getting like $25 million a year. Like, shut the hell up. Sorry, I'm angry. Jason, it's always a good show, bro.
Likewise.
So we'll be back next Thursday night right here on the One Podcast Network. Shout out to Bruce. Bruce is going down to Haiti to visit his family, his girlfriend. So shout out to Bruce. Safe travels. Get back safe. He'll be back hopefully on Wednesday because, with this damn country and our immigration system, who knows if he's going to be allowed back. Just don't get me started. We'll be back next Thursday. Check us out on X. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm kind of checking out Blue Sky. See if that's a thing. So check us out there. One Podcast Network. Subscribe, like. Thank you for watching live. If you're watching the recording, appreciate it. We'll see you next Thursday night. Peace.
Peace.
This has been The Box Out with Kahlil Thomas and Jason Kortner. Subscribe now for the best tri-state area basketball talk.